transfers made, my triple captain active, and still possibly more transfers to be made. We're going to be discussing all of that in today's Game Week 24 team selection video. So as always, if you are looking forward to it, make sure you do smash that like button and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Enough waffling, let's get into today's video. So first up, just a quick recap on Game Week 23. I ended up scoring 66 points and finally a green arrow for the team from around 215k to 197k. So we're finally back in the top 200k. I don't plan on going back out of it. The goal now is to get to 100k in the next couple of weeks. Let's see how that goes. In terms of my team for Game Week 23, some good performance. We discussed that in previous videos. I just want to give you guys a bit of an update on where my team currently stands. So I've gone for triple Liverpool, 2 defenders, 1 attacker in the combination of Alisson and Trent. I would prefer Gakpo, obviously, hindsight with that 16-point haul in Game Week 23. But from a long-term perspective, I do view Alisson as a player that I wanted between Game Week 23 and up until Game Week 28. Of course, they might blank in 29. So I look at him as a real safe bet between now and then. And I do think the clean sheets will eventually come in that team. In terms of the problematic players, João Pedro a problem. We don't have any Everton coverage. And, of course, we have the temptation of going for someone like a Mbeumo off the back of those returns in Game Week 23. But all in all, really happy. Let's take a look at some transfers and, of course, the hot topics before my team selection. So I mentioned that I made 2 transfers. We'll cover that at the end of this video with the team selection. But, of course, if you've watched my transfer plans video, you'll know exactly who those players are. Spoiler alert. They play in blue, that's all I'm going to say. So the third transfer that I'm intending for my team is going to be Gordon to Mbeumo. Now, I discussed the problem players in my team, people like João Pedro, no Everton coverage. Those are the ones that are the priority. And in a position like myself where I was going into Game Week 24 with 4 free transfers available, I had flexibility in the team. And also, I had the opportunity and maybe the luxury to make a move like this. Now, I haven't made it yet, and it is worth noting Mbeumo went up in price to 7.9 million. So not ideal, especially for those managers that maybe have Bruno Fernandes as well, because his price did go down. And this is the definition of a luxury move. I totally get Bruno Fernandes to Mbeumo. I would have made that move myself. But Gordon to Mbeumo is less obvious. Now, of course, we're looking at Game Week 24 in isolation because I always had Game Week 25 as the game week kind of to move away from Gordon. I do think he actually could do well against City, for example. But with them most likely blanking in Game Week 29, the horizon to sell Gordon is getting closer and closer. And I feel like with someone like Bryan Mbeumo, who price is going up on penalties, guaranteed game time, it's very difficult for me to sit here and say I won't own him at some point. So the question is, do I just get him in inevitably for Game Week 24 with that brilliant home fixture against Spurs, who of course have played midweek in the Europa League? Now, when we actually take a look at the underlying numbers for both, this kind of says to me, keep Gordon. The XG per 90 is actually better for Gordon because, of course, Mbeumo's includes penalties. Now, of course, while that is really good for Gordon, we also need to remember that we can't just discount penalties. That is a huge part of a player's attraction as an FPL pick. Hence why Gordon is less of an option than that of Mbeumo, because the only way he gets the penalties is if Alexander Isak is off the field. But the numbers here are really promising for Anthony Gordon. So the big question I have to ask myself is, I know I want Mbeumo from Game Week 25 onwards regardless. Do I pull the trigger now, use a free transfer because I see the Spurs game being better than that of the Fulham game at St James's Park? And I'm going to be honest with you, I still haven't come to a conclusion yet what route to go for. I've already missed the price rise in Mbeumo, so I haven't really capitalised on any financial gain. So now it's just a straight shootout between who do I think scores more points in Game Week 24 in isolation. And as of right now, even though I really know I want Mbeumo, I also think Gordon could do perfectly fine against this Fulham team at home. So I'm leaning towards keeping Gordon for one more week and then almost bringing in Mbeumo as soon as possible once we see those potential price changes. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I know this is a luxury move, but right now I'm planning on keeping Gordon, but I'm 51% sure. So the next big question for my team is triple captaincy, and do I use it in double Game Week 24? Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, spoiler alert, yes, I have activated my triple captain, and no prizes for anybody who guessed that it was Mo Salah. I really do think if you're activating the triple captain in double Game Week 24, it has to be Mo Salah. I know some people are chasing upside with the likes of Trent and Gakpo. For me, best asset in the game, who's on penalties with guaranteed game time and a double, it's a no-brainer. You put it on Mo Salah if you are activating that triple captain. The big question is, of course, if you don't do it in 24, are there other opportunities and why am I doing it? So firstly, to answer why I'm doing it, it's because I've got all my chips still available. And I actually look at the triple captain as just the weakest. I think every game week there's always going to be one dominant player who is the captaincy pick. We've had a few weeks this season where it's been quite evenly spread, but we are most likely going to get most weeks where one player is heavily captained. So when you use your triple captain, you're only really benefiting from an additional third of those returns. So I don't think the triple captain is the most powerful. And if you're in a position like myself where you have all your chips available, I think just getting it out of the way for double game week 24 is just the way to play. Yes, I know Salah has tricky games away against Bournemouth and away against Everton, but we're kind of forgetting that Liverpool aren't the best team in Europe right now. I know Bournemouth have been good, but I also don't look at them and think these guys can't concede goals, and that's all we want. We're not playing the assistant manager chip praying for a Liverpool win. We are just looking at these games and thinking, can there be goals in both of these games? And I absolutely think there can. I wouldn't be surprised if there are 4 or 5 goals scored in these games combined. And if that is the case, with the ownership and also the involvement that Mo Salah has, it just feels like a no-brainer to go for the triple captaincy on him. But if you're in a position right now where you're planning on not using it in game week 24, because it isn't just as certain as, yes, you have to play it, there are some alternatives. So in terms of the double game weeks, we haven't had those announced, but it sounds like we're going to get a double in game week 33 and in 36. Your guess is as good as mine on who exactly those teams are going to be. That is a reason why I do think just getting it out of the way this week is the right play, because we know Salah's fit, we know Liverpool are in form, we don't have to make any of these educated guesses. In terms of the single game week options, because we know what those are, I think there are 3 players who we confidently could put the triple captaincy on. I feel a little bit harsh leaving out Alexander Isak. I think he is also in the equation. In terms of Mo Salah, 25 at home against Wolves, 28 at home against Southampton. Those are the only 2 I think you can realistically consider the triple captaincy. But again, do I prefer one game week in isolation for Mo Salah as opposed to a double? I just don't. I think the double is so much better than either of these singles. When we take a look at Cole Palmer, 27 and 28 are brilliant at home against Southampton and Leicester. Those could be your picks, but once again, are we certain that by the time we get there, Cole Palmer is fully fit? We don't know in that situation. Game week 32 at home against Ipswich, again, a great fixture. The one thing I will say against Chelsea is very unpredictable team right now. Don't really know what direction they're going in. Would you be surprised, and I am speaking as a Chelsea fan here, if in 2 months' time there were rumours of Maresca possibly getting the chop? You just wouldn't be surprised at all with our club. So Palmer for me just doesn't actually have any sort of promise over Mo Salah this week. Finally, Erling Haaland, to see some people saying they're going to hold off for him. Home against Leicester in 30, home against Wolves in 35. Brilliant. But are you actually going to own him? I look at the weeks going forward and think there could be a time where I never own Erling Haaland. So you can't really plan on putting the triple captaincy on him if you don't even plan on owning him at any point. So with all this said, for me, if you have all your chips available, I think the triple captaincy on Mo Salah this week is just the best way to play it. And then you could be aggressive with your assistant manager chip in future game weeks where we have those big doubles. Finally, before we get to my team selection, a quick cover up of just some of the game week 24 hot topics. Now, this is your chance. If you're reading these right now and also the subjects that I covered before and I haven't answered it, get in the comment section now. Let me know. Of course, I'll answer them between now and that game week 24 deadline. So first up, very popular question. Is it time to play your assistant manager chip? Now, of course, this is completely team dependent. For those that don't know, the assistant manager chip is now available from game week 24 onwards, which is quite an ideal time because, of course, it is a double game week. The temptation is there for managers. A few house rules first and foremost. If you activate the assistant manager chip, it is active for 3 consecutive game weeks. You have to take some money out of your bank to afford managers. You can cover that off in other sections in the videos that I've done previously. The managers take up a third of your spots, so you can't have 3 Liverpool players and then slot on top of that, so you need to remember that. And you can transfer out managers as you go throughout the 3 consecutive game weeks, so you could do Moyes for 24, 25, and if you wanted to. For me, I think there are going to be more options in future game weeks where you can have a bit more fun with the chip, and I think that is exactly what this chip is, a bit of fun. Nobody knows how to fully optimize the chip, and for that reason I just think wait until later on in the season is the best time to do so. But I can't knock anybody if they want to do it this week. If I was to do it this week, I probably would just go safe and go for slot if I didn't have 3 Liverpool already. In terms of the Bournemouth attackers, how would I rank them? Because there is a big push towards them. If not this week, 100% from game week 25 onwards. So currently I've got Ouattara at 3rd. I know he's the hat-trick hero from Bournemouth's game in game week 23. However, I feel like if there is any player that is going to lose a bit of game time in the foreseeable future, it could be him. He's been fantastic. Need to monitor the transfer window, see if they buy a forward between now and then. 5 million, ridiculous value, but I always have it in the back of my mind. Could it just be a purple patch player? Because he doesn't have any other avenues to points apart from open play. That is my concern right now. With him being the cheapest, you then have to find the funds to go up from him if you really want to. Number 2 is going to be Semenyo. Kind of the boring pick in this Bournemouth attack, and also the most frustrating, being a fellow Semenyo only. I have to say that. But I do think with his numbers and his guaranteed game time, that puts him slightly ahead of Ouattara for me. But number 1 quite clearly is going to be Kluivert. We need to see once Tavernier returns whether he does take away some minutes from Kluivert or Ouattara. But while he's on penalties in this amazing form and playing in advanced positions, Kluivert is number 1 pick. Should you sell any forward for Gakpo? So the way I've kind of answered this is quite clear. I would sell every forward for Gakpo apart from Alexander Isak. Keep Alexander Isak. I'm seeing some transfers out crazy. You know, the player that I would consider keeping is going to be Mateta, because the game weeks going forward aren't too bad. So I don't mind the Mateta keep as well. Otherwise, if you're in a position where you don't have 3 Liverpool and you can easily get to Gakpo from any other forward, I would consider doing so. Final few questions. Is it essential to have 6 double game week players in 24? I know a lot of people kind of have this problem. They need to get every single spot in. Well, triple Liverpool is essential because every active manager is going to have it, whether it be your 3 players or 2 outfield players in Arnie's slot. That is a non-negotiable. I'd rank them as Mo Salah 1, Trent 2, Gakpo 3. Now, Everton, on the other hand, is an interesting one. I think having 1 is quite important. If I had to prioritise, it would be a defensive coverage, even someone cheap like Mykolenko at 4.4 million. But I don't think you need 3. I think Everton are still a work in progress under David Moyes. They are not a fantastic team. And once the game week 24 is out the way, you are then going to be stuck with 3 Liverpool players. Sorry, 3 Everton players. The one thing I do like about 2 is that you can keep Pickford in goal each week. I think he's a really good option. And then you can just stash away a cheap player like Ndai or Mykolenko. I don't think 3 are absolutely essential. And finally, a lot of whispers about a potential double game week in 25. Yes, it could happen. I've got my notes here because I don't know everything. If Spurs were to win the second leg or progress into the EFL Cup final, then there is a 25% chance or less that they might actually look at game week 29, know that that's going to be a blank, and then actually move it to game week 25. Now, we probably won't get that announcement, of course, until, well, we're not going to get it until after the game week 24 deadline. So we can't really anticipate this, but it is worth noting in the back of your mind that this has a chance of happening, but a very small chance. If I've missed any hot topics, let me know in the comments. So moving into my double game week 24 team selection, a reminder, before I made any moves, I had 4 free transfers available, a little bit of money in the bank, around 1 million. And as you can see in the goalkeeper department, no concerns here. We went for Alisson. We're going to stick with Alisson. There's been a few people actually jumping away from Alisson to Pickford. I don't mind that move at all. The reason being is, and I want to quickly cover this off, because Liverpool, we're expecting, are going to beat Spurs in the second leg of the EFL Cup. It will mean that there's a real good chance Liverpool will blank in game week 29. The problem, you then have a goalkeeper that blanks in Alisson and someone like myself where Fabianski looks like he could have lost his spot. That means we might not have a goalkeeper for game week 29. A lot of people panicking about this. I don't really care. When we got transfers in the bank, 3, 4, you can just keep Alisson to game week 28 and then sell him to your choice of goalkeeper. I think people are kind of panicking for the sake of panicking, to be honest with you. We don't get this on this channel. In terms of the defenders, we have made a transfer. This is one of those that you guys will know about if you watch my transfer plans video. Straight away, as soon as I could, I sold Anderson to bring in Mykolenko. I wanted a piece like Everton defence. No, I don't think they're fantastic, but my other alternative was playing Munoz away against Man United. Cue a Munoz goal inevitably. But I wanted Mykolenko, especially for that Leicester at home game. So the 3 picked themselves. Mykolenko with the double, Trent with the double, and then Gabriel at home against Man City. I get some people benching Gabriel. In my case, I don't even have that headache because the alternatives are worse than Gabriel. I would be a bit loath to bench him because he could easily get an attack and return, as we know. And would you be surprised if Arsenal were to shut up shop against Man City and maybe get a 0-0? I equally wouldn't be surprised at that. So I think starting Gabriel is still fine. Not ideal, but for my team, it makes a lot of sense. Moving into my double game week 24 midfielders, and you guys know that I had this deliberation between Gordon and Mbeumo, and as you can see right now, I'm currently keeping Anthony Gordon, but I do need to caveat this by saying, of course, this is Friday, deadline Saturday, things could change between now and then, so there's no better time than ever to make sure you are subscribed to the channel, as I will be doing a deadline live stream, and that's probably where, if I am going to be tempted, I will make that move to Bryan Mbeumo, because I still have the transfers available and the cash in the bank to do so. But after looking at those underlying numbers and back in this Newcastle attack, I think I can just stick with Gordon for one more week, and then literally the moment game week 25 deadline opportunity arises, I can sell Gordon to Mbeumo and just get him in. In terms of the midfielders, I'm pretty content. Of course, I bought Eze in game week 23. I'm looking at him as basically a long-term pick until the blank 29. And even though Man United away doesn't look fantastic, I've seen teams cause problems to Man United, even Bournemouth, for example. So I really do think there is a chance Eze could return in this game. Fingers crossed. Of course, Man United played midweek as well, so hopefully that will actually be beneficial for Crystal Palace. So I'm going to keep Eze, and I'm going to pick him over Semenyo because, yes, that is a close one, but I just don't like playing players that are up against my defenders. So I'm going to hedge on a Liverpool clean sheet, fingers crossed, and we're going to play Eze. And then, of course, we got Cole Palmer and Mo Salah. Nothing really to talk about those. We've already revealed that I've played the triple captain on Mo Salah, but we'll quickly confirm that at the end of this video. But the midfielders pick themselves. There is a slight deliberation to do Gordon to Mbeumo, but as of right now, I'm sticking with my boy Gordon for one more week. But let me know in the comment section, would you make that move? Next up, my double game week 24 forwards, and I have made a move in this department. We'll cover that in a second. First up, we have got Vissa at home against Spurs. Now, I see a lot of FPL managers scrambling to get Vissa in their teams. I've had him since game week 9, I'm going to say, and I've said it each and every week. This guy has been my MVP of this season. His ownership has always been below 10%. I feel sad that it is going to start to rise up over the next few weeks. And I think people need to obviously kind of curb their expectations of Vissa. As somebody that's owned him for half of the season, he is fantastic at home. Away from home, you do need to have a bit of a contingency plan because he isn't fantastic away from home. But with this Spurs game, I'm very happy to have him in my team and slightly ahead of the curve in that sense. Isak at home against Fulham, fantastic. As I said, some people are selling him. Let them sell him. He is a season keeper as long as he stays fit in this Newcastle team. He is ridiculous. And the home game against Fulham, I think is going to be close affair, but I still think Isak can score in any fixture. And with his ownership being so big, you are taking a big gamble by getting rid of him. And finally, the man that I brought in is going to be Ndiaye. Now, I would say the reason he's in is because I hate João Pedro. I hate João Pedro with a passion. He has been a troll in my team. I think João Pedro could deliver in any week because he's on penalties. But what I'm seeing with my eyes right now is not a good FPL asset. And Brighton, a little bit indifferent. Now, that is quite rich saying that, going from João Pedro to someone like Ndiaye, whose underlying numbers are equally bad. And yes, he is on penalties, but he does play for Everton. However, in my situation with João Pedro, I just felt like Ndiaye was a no-brainer. It keeps the exact same team structure. It gets me a double in game week 24 and a player in game week 29. I know João Pedro was going to play in 29, but I get that additional fixture for this week. Am I expecting Ndiaye to score 3 goals? Absolutely not. Could he get a jammy penalty and then chuck in 2 appearance points on top of that in the other game? He absolutely could. And for that reason, João Pedro to Ndiaye just made a lot of sense. And the moment I sold him, I actually gained a bit of money in the bank as well. So it was a bit of a win-win. I get people are sceptical about the Everton's attack. I'm not sitting here saying they're going to score loads of goals. But all it takes is one Ndiaye goal and it kind of pays it off. So those are my moves. Anderson to Mykolenko, João Pedro to Ndiaye. And apart from possibly Gordon to Mbeumo, which would then mean obviously the same formation, I'm pretty happy with this team for double game week 24. Let me know your thoughts on the comment section. Finally, let's touch on triple captaincy before wrapping up this video. So as I mentioned, my triple captain is active on Mo Salah. We've kind of had a section already in the video discussing triple captaincy, so I don't want to go into detail about this. Go back to the bookmark if you want to have a bit more of an in-depth discussion on the Mo Salah triple captaincy. I'm going to put the vice captaincy on Trent just because if he doesn't play Mo Salah for some weird reason, I still want a triple captain in this double game week, and Trent is the one who has the most upside in the game. So triple captaincy on Salah. For my team, I'm looking to play the assistant manager later on in the season. I have to play a chip this game week because for those watching this, if you're not playing a chip this week, just don't be surprised if your rank isn't as good as what you anticipated, because you are up against a field of people playing triple captaincy and assistant manager. So if you score a good score, just remember the average might be quite high this week because of all these chips being activated. So just giving you a bit of a warning. But for me, a no-brainer, triple captaincy on Mo Salah, get out of the way, and then I can really focus in on the remaining chips and a bit of a strategy. Yes, guys, okay, that is going to wrap up today's double game week 24 team selection video. Hopefully, I've covered off most of the hot topics and, of course, give you an update on my own team. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate. Put them in the comment section. I'll be sure to get to them between now and the deadline. And I will be doing a deadline live stream. Finally, we're back Saturday morning. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel to check out that. And if you want to be notified, make sure you hit that notification bell. I forget to say that. As always, have a fantastic day and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.